What's up, guys? It's your boy Rare. It's been a while, but I'm back. I'm back with another very special, powerful video. I got some great news, guys, okay? In this video, I'm gonna be telling you how I was able to successfully pass the CFA exams. Yes, all 3 exams on the first attempt. Now, today is it's a very special day, okay? Because today, I was actually awarded the charter. Okay, round of applause. But I was awarded the charter, right? And basically what that means is after you pass the level 3 exam, right, you have to, obviously apply for membership into the Institute, which requires some professional references, some acknowledgement of your work experience, all these things, right? And then the CFA reviews that information and either accepts it or denies it. And once it's accepted, you become in the actual institute. So today is a very special day, May 9th, 2024. I was just awarded my charter. So it inspired me to make this video. Now I have some free time on my hands, so I'm definitely coming back to YouTube, but it inspired me to make this video on how I was able to pass the extremely difficult, it strikes fear into people when they hear the title of this exam, of this test, right? How I was able to successfully pass the CFA exams on the first attempt, which is very unlikely, right? The likelihood of passing on the first attempt is extremely low, considering the historical pass rates of the exam ranging between 35 to 50% once you get to the level 3. But in this video, I'm gonna tell you guys how I was able to do it. And hopefully, if it inspires you, you can kind of follow my footsteps and get it done as well. But before I get into any additional details here, please like the video, please subscribe. I know I haven't been extremely consistent. I was studying a lot for this exam, but I plan to be more consistent on YouTube. Please like this video, subscribe it, share it to someone who's also a young professional in finance who is considering taking these exams. Hopefully it can help them out, provide value, and help them be a CFA charter holder eventually, and on the first attempt, because you don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. Like, comment, subscribe, let's get to this. Okay, guys, so once again, how I was able to pass the CFA level 3 exams on the first attempt, the first go around, right? It took me approximately, I set for the first exam, registered for the first exam back in, I took the first exam in 2022, and then I took the second in 2023, and then I just took the level 3 back in February of this year. So I'm about a couple months removed, a few months removed since I've taken the exam. Obviously, it takes like 3 or 4 weeks or so for you to finally get your results. So yeah, got the result. Fortunate enough to pass level 3. Really difficult exam, right? It's the written response, constructive response exam. All the other 2 levels are just multiple choice. So level 3 has this added element of written response, which makes it a little bit more difficult, but it's possible, right? So I want to talk to you guys kind of ad hoc here. I don't really have any notes. I kind of just want to speak to you guys, share this energy, and also kind of give you some tips and perspectives on how to pass this exam on the first attempt for yourself, okay? So for those of you who don't know, the CFA exam is a Chartered Financial Analyst exam, okay? It is the most distinguished financial certification that you can have in the financial services industry, right? It's really difficult, okay? And as I mentioned, the historical pass rates for this exam are extremely low. The level 1 historical pass rate is upwards of 35%. So I mean, 1 in 3 people who take this exam will pass the exam. It's really a difficult exam. Most people fail, okay? Most people fail. So the first thing you have to get into your head, right, is that there's a high likelihood, in fact, there's a 70% chance that you're going to fail this exam, right? And so that's something that you gotta kind of get into your head, right? But I promise you it's possible. I wouldn't consider myself, extremely high IQ. I consider myself modest intelligent, at least, I guess, I don't know. But it's possible, okay? It's possible to take and pass, right? And like I said, I passed all 3 exams on the first attempt. I think the second exam, level 2, has a pass rate of, I think, roughly in that same ballpark, 35 to 40%, right? That means, 60% of people fail the exam, right, on average. 60 to 70% of people fail the exam on average, right? The level 3 is slightly higher historical pass rate, around the 50% mark, right, on average. And obviously these pass rates fluctuate as over the years, right? So I mean, plain and simple, it's a really difficult exam, right? In fact, it's ranked as, I think, in the top 5 of most difficult exams in the world, right? It's more difficult than some graduate exams. It's more difficult than the bar exam for lawyers, right? So this is an extremely difficult exam, very challenging, and many who try fail, right? On average, most people fail. A very small minority of people actually pass the exams, which is why there's only 130,000 charter holders globally, right? In the world, there's only, I think, roughly 130,000 charter holders in the world. And so it's a really difficult exam, right? But kind of getting to my backstory, as you guys know, I studied finance in undergrad. I always know that I wanted to be in financial services. And for me, I really started my career as on the advising side, right? So as a financial advisor, which quite frankly, there's a very low barrier to entry to being a financial advisor. A lot of financial advisors don't even have bachelor's degrees, right? So financial advisors is really a glorified sales role, right? Being a broker is a glorified sales role, right? You're there to bring in business. Of course, if you don't do that, then you lose your job. It's like the turnover rate in that business is very high. It's like upwards of 80%, right? And so that's kind of how I started my career, right? Because coming out of college, I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do in finance. I just knew that I love finance, right? I love the stock market. I love the financial analysis process, right? Looking over a company's 10Ks, right? Understanding how that company drives revenue, understanding that company's cash flows or capital structure, right? That really intrigued me. My coursework was very interesting in Central Michigan. And so I knew I wanted to be in finance. And so my first job out of school was with TD Ameritrade as a broker, right? So I got my Series 7, I got my Series 6, and very quickly found out that you're in a sales role, right? It's a sales role, right? Your priority is to bring in business. It's not to, analyze financial statements. It's not to necessarily structure client portfolios. In fact, at TD, we didn't operate on a discretionary basis. So really we were bringing in clients for the sole purpose of kind of identifying any financial management solutions that TD Ameritrade had in-house, and subsequently seeing if they were a good fit for the client and kind of ushering them into those solutions. So not a lot of portfolio management in that role. And that's the case, quite frankly, with most financial advisor roles, right? I worked as an advisor with Morgan Stanley for a couple of years. Once again, extremely sales oriented. They don't give a shit about how well you can structure a portfolio if you're not bringing in business, right? And I found that out very soon, very early on in my career, and realized that, hey, I need to essentially develop the skill set to get out of this kind of hamster wheel of financial advising, which is what you typically see with a lot of financial advisors. If you go on LinkedIn and look at a financial advisor's resume, they tend to have been a financial advisor with a multiple number of different firms. Like I said, these guys are constantly jumping ship, going to different firms and just doing the same thing over and over again, prospecting clients, working with clients, right? Managing assets, which is great, right? But I knew that, given my experience in an advising realm, I didn't really have the kind of qualifying skill set to be a financial analyst, which is really where my heart lied, right? So I asked myself, what can I do? Also coming from a non-target university, which if you're watching this video and you're coming from a non-target university, you didn't go Ivy League, or some fancy private school, excuse me. If you didn't go Ivy League, if you didn't go some fancy private school, you need something that's gonna set you apart, right? I got a buddy of mine who went to Michigan State, or U of M, sorry, and he worked for Blackstone for a few years, and he straight up told me, like, these guys don't even look at your resume if you didn't go to a target school, right? They don't even look at it, right? And so for me, it's like, well, you need something to set yourself apart, right? Either if that's an MBA from a prestigious university or the CFA, right? If you look at a lot of these managing directors at these massive firms, a lot of them are CFA charter holders. Right? If you look at analysts, a lot of them are CFA charter holders, right? So I knew that I needed to go down that route in order to break into the side of finance that I wanted to be in, right? Buy side, sell side, equity research, financial analyst, those roles, right? I needed to at least generate some type of attractive factor, considering I didn't really necessarily have the experience to land a position in one of those roles, which led me to taking the CFA. Okay, so now the reason you guys are all here, how the fuck did I pass? Okay, granted, like I said, I did my undergrad, I studied finance in undergrad, so my foundation was solid, right? But the CFA is extremely challenging, even if you come from a finance background. A lot of the stuff is new, like quantitative. The quantitative portion of the exam is extremely difficult, right? It's a heavy focus on mathematics, algebra specifically, right? So there's a lot of things, even when you come from a solid financial background, there's a lot of things that you simply are learning for the first time. Obviously, you should know basic economics, right? You should know what a stock is, very basic things, but that can only get you so far when taking these exams. But like I said, I sat for the level 1 back in late 2022, right? And then about 4 months later after I passed, I studied 5 months for the level 2. And then once I passed the level 2, I immediately registered for the level 3 in that same year. So I passed the level 2 in 2023 and then subsequently registered for the level 3 later in that year, right? So I was that's not true. I registered for the level 3 like a few months after, right? Well, I registered immediately after passing the exam, and then that level 3 wasn't until February 2024, right? So I gave myself a study period of about 4 or 5 months, right? And that was pretty consistent with most exams, right? Most exams I studied roughly 4 or 5 months, so didn't have a really long period. But essentially, here's what I did, okay? And I studied while working full time, right? So what my study schedule consisted of was getting off of work, maybe taking an hour or so, a couple hour break, right? Trying to hit the gym if I had the energy, right? Immediately after work or after studying. Sometimes I would study right after work. But plain and simple, I studied 3 hours every single day after work, okay? You have to. And fuck the 3 hour average or 300 hours average study time. That's bullshit, right? Because most people fail this exam. And so if you're studying the 300 hours and most people are failing, you're doing something wrong, right? You need to study more than 300 hours, right? I probably put well over 1,000 plus hours into each exam, right? So I would study 3 hours every single day after work consistently, rarely ever missing a day. I'm not gonna lie, I missed a day here and there, but not consistently, right? I was consistently studying. And then on the weekends, I would spend on Saturdays, I would try to get in 5 to 6 hours of studying. Sundays, the same thing, 5 to 6 hours of studying. So yeah, you gotta study every single day after work for 3 hours. On the weekends, you need to at least dedicate 5 to 6 hours, both on Saturday and Sunday, for studying as well, period. Okay, now if you're like me, right, I have a passion for this stuff. So I actually enjoyed studying in a weird way. I enjoyed learning about new topics, kind of mastering the subject of finance. It was enjoyable to me, right? And so, but if that's not the case for you, it may be a little bit more difficult to study 3 hours every single day and then, 12 plus hours on a weekend, but it has to be done, right? So yeah, level 1, level 2, level 3. Once I found out that what I did for level 1 worked, I did the same exact thing for level 2, 3 hours every single day after work, right? And I would go to the gym right after studying, right? As much as I could. I'm not gonna lie, my fitness definitely took a little hit because you have to sacrifice. So I wasn't really as consistent with the gym as I am now or as I was before the exam, right? But you have to sacrifice, but at least try to go to the gym, 3 days out the week, I think is decent to do. Okay, so 3 hours every day after work, 5 to 6 hours on Saturdays, 5 to 6 hours on Sundays. And then I would just chill, honestly, after that. I would just chill. When I was done studying, I would just decompress, right? And so, yeah, that's really it. In regards to how I approach, and I know this isn't super structured, right? It's not super structured, so it's not super structured, but in regards to kind of my approach is I used Mark Meldrum, right? Mark Meldrum is like a third party, kind of ancillary study thing. So Mark is dope because Mark offers videos, right? So he has videos on every single chapter, right? So what I would do is this, right? I would watch the videos. I would go 30 minutes videos, an hour doing practice problems. 30-minute videos, an hour doing practice problems, right? And I would just do that for every single chapter, just mowing through chapters. 30-minute videos, hour practice problems, 30-minute videos, hour practice problems. And mainly I would do like Mark Meldrum. Mark Meldrum also has a question bank as a part of his curriculum, which helps out a lot. I quite frankly found that his questions were slightly more challenging than the actual questions on the Institute. The question bank offered through the CFA learning ecosystem, right? A lot more challenging. But I would do Mark Meldrum, watch the video, practice problems for an hour, watch the video, practice problems for an hour, studying done, right? And I did that consistently throughout level 1 and level 2. Early on in level 1, I did have the idea of reading the books, right? I do have all the books here. I'll grab one. It's one of my level 1 books right here. Boom, this is Fixed Income, Derivatives, Alternative Investments, and Portfolio Management. Fun stuff, honestly. Right, so early on in the level 1 studying process, I was like, I want to read the book, right? I just want to tackle the entire book. And then I very quickly realized it's going to take way too much time, right? And unless you're like a extremely fast reader with amazing comprehension skills, reading the books just takes a very long time. I would honestly recommend looking at the books more so towards the tail end, like when you're reviewing. You know, I think that really helps out a lot. But in regards to just getting through the curriculum, which is just a big focus of mine early on, it's like I just need to make sure that I get through the curriculum, right? You hear these horror stories of guys who didn't even make it through the curriculum, right? And that's another thing that I want to speak on, right? The curriculum, right? So each exam has, I think, roughly 10 sections, right? Fixed income, portfolio management, corporate issuers, quant, economics, equities, alternatives, right? So each exam has like, I believe 7 to 10 sections. Sorry, I'm not even really thinking here. But yeah, 7 to 10 sections, right? What I did and what I highly recommend is the CFA actually prints out the kind of the breakdown or the allocation of the sector weights on the exam, right? So for example, for level 3 is a little bit different because a lot of the exam is portfolio management, but even then, the Institute has a detailed breakdown of which portfolio management sections will carry the highest weight on the exam. So what I would do is I put together a spreadsheet of the top 3 to 4 weighted sections on the exam, right? And really I structured my study schedule to where I attacked those first, right? Just in the event that I was running short on time towards the tail end of studying and I wouldn't have the time to really, you know, if I was not able to somehow get through the entire curriculum, you know, at least I've gone through the highest weighted sections on the exam. And so I just really focused my time on those highest weighted sections. And I highly recommend that, right? Don't try to overconsume derivatives, right? Derivatives is typically like 5 to 10% of the exam. It makes no sense to spend a significant amount of time on derivatives. So what I did is those lower weighted sections on the exam, I really, towards the tail end of kind of the revision process, you know, I touched those, right? I just simply touched them. Maybe I would watch the Mark Meldrum video, knock out a couple problems, but I wouldn't spend too much time on those smaller weighted sections, right? I really focused my time, energy on which sections carry the highest weighting, which is typically fixed income, portfolio management, and equities. I think in general, those are the top 3 weighted sections across all 3 exams. Okay, so I highly recommend that as well, right? For those smaller weighted sections, right? Yes, you want to get through the curriculum at first. When it gets down to the time where you're reviewing, which I at least say give yourself 30 days, if not 2 months, just for reviewing, right? During that review time, really spend the bulk of your time hitting those higher weighted sections, okay? Because that's going to help out tremendously. In any event that you run out of time, at least you know that, hey, the exam covers, you know, 30% of the exam is going to be in fixed income. I'm very well versed in fixed income, right? So focus on the highest weighted sections first, and then kind of touch up on the lesser weighted sections towards the tail end of a review, right? To make sure you have a general understanding. You can maybe kind of fumble your way through those questions a little bit, right? But yeah, 3 hours of studying every day after school, 12 hours, 5 to 6 hours on Saturday, 5 to 6 hours on Sunday. So a total of 12 hours on the weekend. And then, like I said, you want to focus on finishing the curriculum. It definitely helps if you have some ancillary practice or study materials, whether it's Mark Melvin, which is what I use on all 3 exams. Big shout out to Mark, right? Without Mark, I don't even know if I had to pass those exams, right? But being able to have Mark's videos and you can just watch a video just during the review process. He has like review videos as well that summarize the chapters extremely well, right? And really touchy place on any points that are confusing, right? Cracking open a book, right? Touching, looking at those sections that you don't really get after watching a video, and then deep diving in the actual text to make sure that you fully understand, and then practice problems, right? Something else worth mentioning here, I gave myself, I took the 2 weeks off prior to the exam. I took them off of work. So I took 2 weeks prior to the exam. I took those weeks off of work, and I literally studied from sun up to sundown, right? For those 2 weeks prior to the exam. No distractions, Monday through Sunday, sun up through sundown, the 2 weeks prior to the exam. At that point, once again, focusing on those higher weighted sections, practice problems, making sure and even reading the chapter at that point. I really found that for level 3, right? Level 3 required a lot of actually reading a chapter, more so than level 1 and 2, because level 3 is significantly more, it's not as comprehensive in regards to the material, but it gets really detailed, right? Really detailed in certain sections. And so I found that reading in level 3 helped out significantly more than it may have for level 1 and 2. But yeah, I guess I can't leave it there, right? If you take anything from this video, you have to study 3 hours every single day. Fuck 300 hours, it's bullshit. That's why most people fail, right? It's gotta be 1,000+ hours, right? 3 hours every day, 12 hours on the weekend. Focus on the highest weighted sections, okay? And then also just make sure you get through the curriculum, and then leave yourself at least 30 days or 2 months for hardcore revision. If you can get the time off prior to the exam, take the 2 weeks off prior to the exam. Something else worth mentioning, practice exams are awesome. So here's what I did, okay? The final week of the exam, so most of my exams, level 1, 2, and 3, I scheduled the exam for Thursday and Friday. So the tail end of the week, okay? And what I would do is I wouldn't take mock exams until that final week. And I would take those mock exams and I would attempt to simulate a test-taking environment as much as possible, right? So let's just say, for example, my exam was scheduled for 9 a.m. on Friday. That Monday through Thursday, I would take the mock exams, right? So I would, wake up a couple hours before the exam, right? I would eat a good breakfast, enjoy a good cup of coffee. And once 9 a.m. hit, I'm in the seat and I'm taking the exam and I'm practicing, right? And the exam also, they give you like an option of like a 30-minute break. So I would take the first half of the exam, I'd finish, take the 30-minute break, come back in, take the second half, right? So that last week of the exam is when I took the mocks and I simulated it so that come Friday, my body was so used to waking up at that time, right? And sitting down and taking that test and having that extended focus for however long, I think it's like 2.5 hours for each portion of the exam, just getting your body used to, that extended focus for 2.5 hours. So that's what I did the last week of the exam, both for level 1, 2, and 3, and it worked out tremendously, right? So I guess I can leave you guys with that, man. Honestly, I'm stoked. I'm really stoked to have passed that exam, especially on the first attempt. It's really, because it takes so much time away from your everyday life, right? You don't want to fail one of those exams, right? Because the likelihood of, especially if you fail once or twice, the likelihood of you actually kind of going through and dedicating all that time and energy again, time away from friends, time away from family, time away from your girlfriend if you have a girlfriend or a wife, right? You don't want to run the risk of failing those exams if you could, hopefully not once, especially not twice, okay? And so just make sure the first time around, you're ready to sacrifice, right? You're ready to give up those 3 hours kind of every day after work. You're ready to sacrifice the gym, right? At least try to maintain a schedule of 3 days out the week. And then, yeah, man, because once again, failing, like, I'm fortunate. It took me a year and a half to pass all 3 exams, okay? I don't understand that most people are not that fortunate, right? And most people end up quitting after they fail a couple times. And I certainly wouldn't recommend that. But I would certainly just say hedge your bets and the first go around, give it all you got. Really put the time in. And yeah, dude, that's it. So I'll leave it there. Hopefully you guys get value from this video. Hit me up if you have any questions. But yeah, man, I was awarded the charter today. It feels fucking amazing. Okay. I already changed my LinkedIn handle. And I already changed some internal handles on through work as well, but really excited about it. If you have any questions for me, hit me up, comment on this video, hit me up on LinkedIn, whatever, Instagram, it doesn't matter. And yeah, good luck, boys. Happy hunting. Your boy Rare. Peace.